Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the tragic crash of Air India Flight 171. It's a disaster that was over in just 30 seconds, but it's now raising some really urgent questions about the safety of one of the world's most advanced airliners.
Okay, let's get right into it. The story here starts with what should have been a completely routine takeoff from Ahmedabad, India, but it ends in an almost unthinkable tragedy just 30 seconds later.
So, to really get a handle on what went so horribly wrong, we need to piece together the final, frantic moments of Flight 170. This all happened on June 12, 2025, right in the skies over Ahmedabad. I mean, the speed of this catastrophe is just breathtaking. At the 0-second mark, the flight is taking off, everything seems normal. Then, just 15 seconds later, both engines inexplicably lose all thrust, and a mere 15 seconds after that, it's over. We're talking a total of 30 seconds from a normal ascent to catastrophic impact. And of course, behind those 30 seconds is a human toll that is just staggering. This was a tragedy that affected not only everyone in the air, but also completely innocent people down on the ground. So this Boeing 787 was almost completely full. It was carrying 242 people in total. That's 230 passengers and a crew of 12. On what should have been a totally normal flight to London. Out of all those people on board, 241 would die in the crash and the fire that erupted afterward, leaving, incredibly, just a single survivor from the aircraft. It's a miraculous detail for sure, but also a really somber one in such an overwhelming tragedy. But the loss, it didn't even stop there. The plane came down on a medical college hostel, and it killed at least 19 people on the ground. The circle of devastation just grew far beyond the flight itself. You know, this wasn't just any crash. This event marked a dark and, frankly, unprecedented milestone for one of the world's most modern and trusted aircraft. And you really can't overstate how significant this was. For more than a decade, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner had a perfect safety record. We're talking 0 fatal accidents across its entire global fleet. And on June 12th, that perfect record was just shattered. So this shocking outcome brings investigators to the one central question, the real mystery at the heart of this disaster. And it's a question that just defies all statistical probability. I mean, the odds of a single engine failing for no reason are incredibly low. The odds of both of them failing at the same time, especially on a state-of-the-art jet like the 787, well, they're astronomically small. So what is the preliminary evidence from the flight recorders telling us? Investigators are really zeroing in on these two switches. The easiest way to think of them is like the master on-off buttons for the engine's fuel supply. When they're in the run position, fuel flows. But if they're moved to cutoff, it stops everything. Cold. So, according to the first report from India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, the flight data recorder is showing that these switches, for both engines, were moved from run to cutoff right after takeoff. That action basically starved the engines of fuel, and that's what caused the catastrophic loss of thrust. The billion-dollar question that's left is, why? Okay, so now let's zoom out a little bit. Because while the Air India crash is pretty unique in its specifics, it's really important to see how this tragic event fits into a wider and, frankly, more troubling pattern of recent aviation incidents in the region. You see, the AI-171 disaster didn't happen in a vacuum. Just a few weeks later, an Indian Air Force Jaguar trainer also crashed, and both pilots were killed. Now, obviously, these incidents are very different, but having them happen so close together contributes to this growing concern about aviation safety in the country. So ultimately, this whole string of devastating incidents is raising some urgent and, frankly, unavoidable questions about safety protocols, about maintenance, and oversight. As the full investigation into Flight 171 moves forward, the world is watching and waiting to see what fundamental changes will be made to make sure a catastrophe like this can never, ever happen again.